My heart sank as Amber's sharp voice cut through the crowded break room. "Caitlyn, what did I tell you about your hair?" Everyone turned to stare at me. My face burned hot as Amber, the assistant manager, marched over. I was only 3 weeks into my first job at Burger Palace, and she'd been making my life miserable from day one. "It's supposed to be fully under your cap," she snapped, yanking my hat off. My newly cut brown hair fell just below my ears. "I cut it last night," I said quietly, "like he told me to." Amber's eyes narrowed. She leaned in close enough that I could smell her minty gum. "Still looks unprofessional. Maybe you need a written warning." Just then, the general manager, Mr. Peterson, walked in. The room went silent. "Everything okay here?" he asked, looking between us. Amber's face transformed into a sweet smile. "Just discussing dress code with Caitlyn. She's still learning." Mr. Peterson nodded and continued to his office. As soon as his door closed, Amber's smile vanished. "Fix it," she whispered, shoving my cap back at me. "Or I'll fix your schedule." I gripped my cap tight, my hands shaking. This wasn't about my hair. This was about something else, something I was just beginning to understand. And I had a feeling things were about to get much worse. 3 weeks earlier, I'd bounced into Burger Palace for my first day, excited to start earning money for college. The place smelled like fries and cleaning solution. The staff seemed friendly. Even Amber smiled when she first met me. "Welcome aboard," she said, handing me a stack of paperwork. "Fill these out and we'll get started." I sat at a booth, carefully writing my information. Name, Caitlyn Miller. Address, phone number, emergency contact, Amy Miller. When I returned the forms, Amber scanned them quickly. Then she froze. "Miller," she said, her voice suddenly sharp. "You're Amy Miller's daughter?" I nodded, confused by her change in tone. "Yes, that's my mom." Something dark flashed across Amber's face. Her smile disappeared, replaced by a cold stare that made my stomach twist. "You look very familiar," she said, her eyes narrowing. "I worked with your mother at Target a few years ago." "Oh, cool," I said, not understanding the tension crackling between us. Amber laughed, but it wasn't friendly. That's not the word I'd use. She shoved my paperwork into a folder. "Let's get your training started. You can clean the bathrooms today." As I followed her to the supply closet, a chill ran down my spine. Whatever history existed between Amber and my mom, I had a feeling I was about to pay for it. 2 weeks in, I realized something wasn't right. While other new hires were learning register and drive-through, I was always stuck cleaning bathrooms or mopping floors. "When will I train on the front counter?" I asked Luis, a friendly coworker who'd started the same day I did. "You haven't done that yet?" He looked surprised. "I've been on register since day 3. That evening, I checked the schedule posted by the time clock to see my hours for next week. Everyone's name was neatly printed, except mine. Someone had scratched it out with black marker. My stomach dropped. I found Amber counting cash at the front. "Excuse me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "My name isn't on next week's schedule." She barely glanced up. "Must be a glitch in the system." "So, when should I come in?" Amber shrugged, her lips curling into a small smirk. "I'll text you, maybe." Tim, another coworker, gave me a sympathetic look but quickly turned away when Amber noticed. Walking home that evening, I realized the truth. This wasn't random. Amber was deliberately making my job harder. But why? What could my mom possibly have done to make her hate me so much? The next schedule appeared with my name on it, but my hours were all over the place. Thursday overnight shift, then Friday morning. Saturday overnight, then Sunday afternoon. My body couldn't adjust to the constant changes. "Is there any way I could get a more consistent schedule?" I asked Amber one evening as she was leaving. "Maybe all morning shifts or all evening?" She turned to me with fake concern. "Having trouble keeping up?" "This is fast food, Caitlyn. It's not supposed to be easy." "I know, but..." "But what? You think you deserve special treatment?" "No, She stepped closer. "Listen carefully. If you can't handle the schedule, maybe this isn't the job for you. Cry to mommy if you can't handle it." Walking home that night, I couldn't hold back the tears any longer. For the first time since starting this job, I broke down. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "How was work today?" I stared at the message, wondering what to say. I'd been hiding how bad things were, not wanting to worry her. But maybe it was time to find out what was really going on. I called her. my voice cracking as soon as she answered. "Mom, I need to ask you something." "Amber Hill?" My mom's voice went stiff when I mentioned the name. "She's your manager at Burger Palace?" I sat on my bed, phone pressed against my ear. "Assistant manager. And she's been making my life miserable. Did something happen between you two?" A long silence followed. I heard Mom sigh heavily. "I was her supervisor at Target about 5 years ago," she finally said. "Amber was caught stealing merchandise. Several items had gone missing, and security cameras showed her taking them." My heart pounded. "What happened?" "I had to fire her. It was her first job out of high school." Mom paused. "She didn't take it well. She claimed another girl was responsible, but the evidence was clear. She screamed at me in front of everyone, said I'd ruined her life." A cold realization washed over me. "So that's why she hates me. She's getting revenge." "Oh, Caitlyn." Mom's voice softened. "You can quit if it gets too much to handle. We'll find you another job." I thought about quitting, how easy it would be to walk away. But something hardened inside me. This wasn't fair. Why should I be punished for something that happened years ago? "No," I said firmly. "I'm not quitting." As I hung up, I knew this wasn't just about a job anymore. This was about standing up for myself. Amber's grudge had become my fight. I showed up for my Tuesday shift only to find my name wasn't on the clock-in system. "That's weird," I said to Carlos, the shift leader. "I'm supposed to work today." Carlos looked uncomfortable. "System says you're not scheduled until Saturday." "But Amber told me Tuesday at 4. "Sorry," he shrugged. "You should talk to her." I waited 3 hours for Amber to arrive. When she finally walked in, she acted surprised to see me. "Why are you here?" she asked, eyebrows raised. "You're not on today." "You told me Tuesday at 4, I insisted. "No, I definitely said Saturday. Maybe you should write things down if your memory is that bad." I knew I wasn't wrong. I had the text messages to prove it, but when I showed her, she just laughed. "That was for last week. God, Caitlyn, try to keep up." Later, Kim, another assistant manager, pulled me aside. "Just so you know," she whispered, "Amber told HR your availability changed. That's why your hours are all messed up." The realization hit me like a punch. Amber was systematically pushing me out. She was using the system against me, and there seemed to be nothing I could do to stop it. That night, I started a detailed log in a notebook. I wrote down every task Amber assigned me, every schedule change, every comment she made. I recorded dates, times, and witnesses. After a week of documentation, I gathered my courage and went to the HR office at our regional headquarters. The woman there, Miss Taylor, listened politely as I explained the situation. "I'll file this formally," she said, handing me a complaint form. "Fill it out with as much detail as possible." I spent an hour carefully writing everything down. It felt good to have someone finally listen. That feeling lasted exactly 1 day. The next afternoon, Amber cornered me in the stockroom. She slammed the door behind her, making me jump. "You think I wouldn't find out?" she hissed, her face inches from mine. "You went to HR?" My heart raced. I just wanted fair treatment." "Fair?" She laughed coldly. "You want to talk about fair? Was it fair when your mother destroyed my reputation? When she made me unhireable at any decent place?" "That was 5 years ago," I said, my voice shaking. "And it has nothing to do with me." "It has everything to do with you," she spat. "And trust me, your little complaint will go nowhere. I've worked here 3 years. You've been here a month. Who do you think they'll believe?" For the first time since starting this job, I felt truly afraid. A week later, the response from HR arrived. Insufficient evidence to support claims of targeted harassment. I stared at the email, my hands shaking with frustration. Without proof, it was just my word against Amber's. And Amber had seniority, connections, and a perfectly crafted professional mask she wore around upper management. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what Mom had said. "This is your story now. Rewrite it." I needed evidence no one could ignore. The next day, I used most of my first paycheck to buy special glasses with a built-in camera. They looked like regular glasses, but could record both audio and video. Completely legal in our state, as long as one party knew recording was happening. When the package arrived, I practiced using them at home, making sure I knew how to activate the recording without being obvious. The glasses felt heavy on my nose, heavy with purpose and possibility. As I put them in their case, I knew I was crossing a line. This wasn't just about defending myself anymore. I was actively planning to expose Amber. It felt scary and empowering at the same time. What if this backfired? What if I got caught? But then I remembered Amber's smirk when she said, "Cry to mommy if you can't handle it." I was done crying. Now I was fighting back. Saturday lunch rush was always chaos. Lines out the door, non-stop orders, grills and fryers working overtime. Usually, we had at least 5 people working. Today there were 2. Me and Jake, a 16-year-old who'd started last week. "Where is everyone?" I asked when I arrived. Jake looked panicked. "Carlos called in sick. Kim had some emergency. Amber said it's just us until 2. My stomach sank. 2 people handling a Saturday rush was impossible. When I checked the schedule, I saw Amber had white out over several names. She deliberately understaffed us. By noon, we were drowning. While rushing to fill an order, my hand slipped on the greasy floor. I grabbed the counter to steady myself, but my palm landed directly on the hot grill. Pain seared through my hand. I screamed, rushing to the sink to run cold water over the burn. "You okay?" Jake called, frantically trying to handle both the register and the drive-thru. That's when I saw her. Amber stood in the doorway, watching. Not helping, just watching, with a small smile on her face. "Need some help?" she asked, not moving. Tears streamed down my face from the pain. The burn throbbed, customers were staring, and Amber just stood there laughing quietly. In that moment, with my hand under the cold water and Amber's laughter in my ears, something broke inside me. But something stronger formed in its place. Monday morning, I arrived to find Amber and Mr. Peterson waiting for me. My stomach immediately knotted. "Caitlyn," Mr. Peterson said gravely, "there's a problem with Saturday's register. We're short $50. I blinked in confusion. "That's impossible." I balanced the drawer before leaving. "The numbers don't lie," Amber said, her eyes gleaming, "and you were the only one on register most of the day." "Jake was there too," I protested. "And you came in later." Mr. Peterson rubbed his forehead. "We'll need to check the security footage." Relief flooded through me. The cameras would prove I hadn't taken anything. An hour later, Mr. Peterson called me into his office. "The footage shows you handled everything correctly," he said. "I'm sorry for the confusion." I should have felt vindicated, but something bothered me. Amber had looked too confident. The next day, I tried to access the security footage again, just to be sure. But when I asked Carlos about it, he looked confused. "That's weird," he said. "Amber told me there was a system glitch. Said all of Saturday's footage was accidentally deleted during maintenance." My blood ran cold. This wasn't just bullying anymore. Amber was willing to falsely accuse me of theft, a fireable offense, possibly even criminal. The stakes had just gotten much higher. The break room went silent when I walked in on Wednesday. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. People suddenly needed to check their phones or remembered urgent tasks. Only Luis still smiled at me, but even he seemed hesitant. "What's going on?" I asked him quietly when we were alone by the drink machines. He glanced around nervously. "Look, I don't believe it, but Amber's been saying things." My heart sank. "What things?" "That you've been acting unstable, that you screamed at customers during Saturday's rush, that you've been making up stories about her to cover for your mistakes." He looked at me sympathetically. "Some people are believing it." It hit me like a truck. Amber wasn't just trying to make me quit, she was building a paper trail to have me fired. Creating a narrative of an unstable employee who couldn't handle the job and lashed out when corrected. "None of that is true," I said, my voice shaking. "I know," Luis replied. "But be careful. She's been here longer, and people trust her." Walking back to the front, I felt eyes on me from every direction. Whispers followed me. The isolation was suffocating. Amber had turned the entire staff against me without ever raising her voice. It was brilliantly evil. But she didn't know I had started recording everything. Thursday night, after another shift of isolation and impossible tasks, I finally broke. I slipped into the walk-in refrigerator, slid down against the cold metal shelves, and let the tears come. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone. Without thinking, I called Mom. "I can't do this anymore," I sobbed when she answered. "Everyone believes her lies. I'm alone here. No one will even talk to me." "Oh, sweetheart," Mom said softly. "Maybe I should just quit, find another job." "You could," she agreed. "No one would blame you." The cold air of the fridge burned my lungs as I tried to catch my breath between sobs. But Caitlyn, Mom continued, her voice growing stronger, this is your story now, not Amber's, not mine. Yours. You get to decide how it ends. I wiped my eyes, her words sinking in. What do you mean? You're stronger than you know. Smarter too. If you want to walk away, do it with your head high. But if you want to stay and fight, then rewrite this story your way. The tears slowed as something shifted inside me. Mom was right. This was my story. I stood up, wiped my face, and reached for my glasses case. I slipped on the camera glasses, straightened my uniform, and walked back onto the floor. Not as a victim, but as someone ready to take control. Saturday was my day off, but I had a plan. I wore casual clothes, my camera glasses, and my hair down. I walked into Burger Palace like a regular customer, but instead of ordering, I headed to the back office. I just need to pick up my paycheck, I told Carlos with a smile. As I'd hoped, Amber was in the office. She looked up, surprised to see me. What are you doing here? It's your day off. Just getting my check, I said lightly. She leaned back in her chair, smirking. Still hanging around? Thought you might have quit by now. I shrugged, making sure to look directly at her so the glasses could capture everything. Why would I quit? Please, she scoffed. Everyone knows you can't handle the pressure. The crying in the fridge? Real professional. You heard about that? I hear everything that happens in my store. She stood up, moving closer. Let me make this clear, you're not welcome here. You never will be, so save yourself the trouble and quit before things get worse. Is that a threat? I asked, my heart pounding but my voice steady. It's a promise, she said, her eyes cold. Miller? I thanked Carlos for my check and walked out, my hands shaking with adrenaline. But underneath the fear was triumph. I'd gotten exactly what I needed, clear, recorded evidence of Amber's intimidation. This was just the beginning. For the next week, I wore my glasses during every shift. I captured Amber assigning me impossible tasks, changing my schedule without notice, and making snide comments just loud enough for me to hear. But the real breakthrough came on Thursday night. I was in the supply closet, restocking paper towels, when I heard Amber and Kim enter the break room next door. They didn't know I was there, with the door cracked open just enough to catch their conversation. Why do you ride her so hard? Kim asked. Caitlyn seems like a good kid. I froze, holding my breath. My finger moved to activate the recording on my glasses. Amber laughed. Good kid? She's Amy Miller's daughter. So? What's that got to do with anything? Her mom fired me on my first job ever, accused me of stealing. It went on my permanent record. Amber's voice hardened. I'll do the same to her daughter, but not before I torment her a little first. Jesus, Amber, that was years ago, and it's not Caitlyn's fault. Don't care. Millers need to learn actions have consequences. My heart raced as I captured every word. This was it, the smoking gun. Amber had just admitted to deliberately targeting me because of a personal vendetta. That night, I carefully edited the video to include only the most damning clips. Then I sent it to corporate HR from an anonymous email address with one message. This is happening at your Valley Road location. Someone should look into it. Mr. Peterson had been away at a management conference for 2 weeks. When he returned on Monday, he immediately sensed something was wrong. Why is morale so low? He asked during the morning meeting. Sales are down. Customer complaints are up. What's happening? Amber jumped in quickly. We've been having some staffing issues, and there's been some problems with the schedule system. Caitlyn's been altering her hours. My jaw dropped at the blatant lie. That's not true, I said before I could stop myself. Mr. Peterson looked between us, his eyes narrowing. I want to see last month's schedule records and the time clock data. Of course, Amber said smoothly. I'll print those right away. After the meeting, I waited until Amber was busy with a vendor and knocked on Mr. Peterson's door. Can I talk to you privately? I asked. It's important. He studied my face, noticing the dark circles under my eyes and my tense expression. Is everything okay, Caitlyn? No, I answered honestly. And I can prove it. He nodded slowly. Come see me after your shift ends. We'll talk then. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flutter of hope. The final showdown was coming, and I was finally ready. At 5 p.m., I sat across from Mr. Peterson in his office, my hands trembling slightly as I placed a folder on his desk. These are copies of my original schedules compared with what was actually posted, I explained. And these are my time cards, showing how my hours were changed after I worked them. He flipped through the papers, his frown deepening. This is concerning, but not conclusive. I took a deep breath and pulled out my phone. I also have this. I played the first video, Amber threatening me on my day off. Then the second, Amber admitting her vendetta to Kim. Mr. Peterson's face grew increasingly grim. There's more, I said quietly, from Saturday's lunch rush. This clip showed me burning my hand while Amber watched and laughed. Mr. Peterson's jaw clenched. The door suddenly opened. Amber walked in, freezing when she saw what we were watching. What is this? She demanded. Mr. Peterson turned the screen toward her. Perhaps you can explain why you're laughing while an employee is injured. Amber's face went pale, then red. She's manipulating you. She's been planning this. Planning what? I asked calmly. To record you admitting you're targeting me because my mom fired you 5 years ago? To document the scheduling glitches that only happened to me? Amber lunged toward me. You little... Enough. Mr. Peterson stood up. Amber, my office. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. sharp. Caitlyn, thank you for bringing this to my attention. You can go home now. As I walked out, Amber's eyes burned into my back. For the first time, she looked truly afraid. The next day, I arrived for my shift to find Amber standing with Mr. Peterson and a woman I recognized from regional management. Caitlyn, Mr. Peterson said, this is Lisa from corporate HR. She'd like to speak with you. For 2 hours, I answered questions and showed additional evidence. When we finished, Lisa thanked me and left with a thick folder of notes. That afternoon, Mr. Peterson called a staff meeting. Amber stood beside him, her face tight with anger. I want to address some concerns about our workplace environment, he began. Effective immediately, Amber will be on a 2-week administrative suspension pending investigation. Whispers erupted among the staff. Amber's face flushed dark red. Kim will be acting assistant manager during this time, he continued. I expect everyone to maintain professionalism and focus on our customers. As the meeting disbanded, Amber brushed past me in the hallway. She leaned in close, her voice a venomous whisper. You think this is over? This is just a temporary setback. I'll be back, and you'll regret the day you messed with me. I looked her directly in the eyes, no longer afraid. I've recorded that threat too. She pulled back as if slapped, then stormed out the front door. For the first time in months, I worked a shift without looking over my shoulder. The battle wasn't over, but I'd won the first major victory. 2 weeks later, Amber returned to work. The change was jarring. She was all smiles and politeness, especially when managers were watching. Good morning, Caitlyn, she said sweetly, loud enough for others to hear. How are you today? I nodded cautiously. Fine, thanks. During my break, she cornered me in the locker room. Her smile remained, but her eyes were cold. We had a rough start, she said, voice dripping with fake sincerity. I hope we can move on from that unpleasantness. I said nothing, just waited. Lisa from HR called me yesterday. Amber continued. They're still reviewing things. I was hoping you might tell them this was all a misunderstanding. That we've resolved our differences. I stared at her in disbelief. You want me to lie to protect you? Her smile tightened. I'm offering you a clean slate. We both say it was a communication issue and we move forward. Otherwise what? The sweet mask slipped. Otherwise, I'll make your remaining time here so miserable you'll wish you'd never been born. I have friends in this company you haven't even met yet. I pulled out my phone, which had been recording the entire conversation. Thanks for that, Amber. I'll make sure HR gets a copy. Her face contorted with rage. You little... I walked out before she could finish, sending the recording to Lisa directly from my phone. Amber might be good at manipulation, but I was getting better at staying one step ahead. The next day, I couldn't clock in. The system showed an error message, employee ID not found. That's weird, Carlos said, trying to help. Let me check the computer. After several minutes, he looked up with a concerned expression. It shows your employment was terminated yesterday. My stomach dropped. That's impossible. I worked yesterday. I immediately went to Mr. Peterson's office, but he was in a meeting. Instead, I pulled out my phone and called Lisa from HR. Someone's deleted me from the system, I explained. I can't clock in, which means I won't get paid. Stay there, she said firmly. I'll make some calls. An hour later, an IT specialist arrived from regional headquarters. He accessed the system logs and discovered someone had changed my employment status at 11:43 p.m. the previous night, long after the store had closed. Only managers had that level of access. And according to the schedule, Amber had closed last night. The specialist printed the back-end logs, showing the exact time and computer used to make the change. I carefully added these to my evidence folder. By noon, my access was restored, with all my hours intact. Amber avoided me completely that day, obviously realizing her digital sabotage had backfired spectacularly. That night, I received a text from Lisa. "We need to meet tomorrow," bringing regional director. The final reckoning was coming. The corporate meeting took place in a hotel conference room, not at the restaurant. I arrived 15 minutes early, dressed in my nicest outfit, with my evidence folder neatly organized. Lisa greeted me with a warm handshake. Beside her sat an older man in a suit, Mr. Daniels, the regional director. Mr. Peterson was there too, looking solemn. For an hour, I answered questions and shared documentation. They reviewed all my videos, the schedule changes, the time card manipulations, and the system logs from the digital sabotage. Finally, Mr. Daniels leaned forward. "Caitlyn, we've completed our investigation. The evidence is overwhelming and disturbing." Lisa nodded. "Amber Hill has been terminated effective immediately. She will not be returning to any position within our company." Relief washed over me like a wave. "Thank you," I said quietly. "No," Mr. Daniels shook his head. "Thank you for having the courage to come forward. This kind of targeted harassment has no place in our company." Mr. Peterson spoke up. "I want to apologize for not seeing this sooner. You showed remarkable resilience and professionalism throughout this ordeal." As I left the meeting, my phone buzzed with texts from coworkers. Word had already spread. Amber was gone for good. I stood in the parking lot, letting the reality sink in. I had won, not with anger or revenge, but with careful documentation and quiet determination. My first shift after Amber's termination felt strange. The tension that had filled the restaurant for months was gone, but something still felt off. Some coworkers seemed genuinely happy for me. Others avoided eye contact, perhaps embarrassed they'd believed Amber's lies. A few seemed almost resentful, as if I'd disrupted their comfortable routine. During my break, Maria, a shy girl who rarely spoke to anyone, sat across from me. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "We didn't know it got that bad. Amber told everyone you were—" She hesitated, unstable, "that you were making things up for attention." I nodded, not angry, just tired. I figured that's what she was saying. "Some of us should have asked you directly," Maria continued, "but we were afraid of getting on her bad side." I understood that fear all too well. Amber had created a culture where everyone walked on eggshells, where speaking up meant becoming a target. "It's okay," I said, meaning it. "Fear makes people do strange things." As I walked back to the front, I noticed how the other employees watched me. With newfound respect, perhaps, but also with caution. The echo of Amber's control still lingered, even in her absence. It would take time for the store to heal completely, but at least the healing could finally begin. Over the next few weeks, a new normal slowly emerged. Kim was promoted to permanent assistant manager, bringing a calmer, more supportive energy to the team. I was finally trained on register and drive-through. My schedule stabilized. Mostly evening shifts that worked perfectly with my college preparations. The bathroom cleaning rotation was distributed fairly among all staff. Small things, perhaps, but they represented the fairness I'd fought for. Coworkers began to ask me questions again: how to process a refund, how to handle a difficult customer, if I could cover their shift. Normal workplace interactions that I'd once taken for granted now felt precious. After closing one night, Mr. Peterson pulled me aside. "I know this wasn't what you imagined for your first job," he said, "but you handled it better than most adults I've worked with." He offered me more hours and mentioned future possibilities. "Your management material, if you ever want it." The validation felt good, but I smiled and shook my head. "Thanks, but I've got bigger plans." College was coming in the fall. This job had taught me more than I ever expected, about standing up for myself, about documentation, about the power of patience and persistence. But it was just one chapter in a much longer story I was writing for myself. One night in late August, I stayed to help with deep cleaning. The restaurant was empty, except for me and the cleaning crew. In the break room, I noticed Amber's old locker still had her name tag on it. It was half open, containing a chipped mug, some hair ties, and a folded schedule from months ago. I stared at it for a long moment, then quietly shut the door. Let someone else clean it out. I didn't need that task, or that closure, on my conscience. Outside in the smoking area, I sat on a bench, enjoying the cool night air. Carlos joined me, lighting a cigarette. "You know," he said after a while, "I used to believe everything Amber said about you. Thought you were making stuff up, being dramatic." He took a long drag. "I'm sorry for that." I watched the smoke curl into the darkness. I probably would have believed her too if I were in your shoes. She was convincing. Still, I should have paid more attention. We sat in comfortable silence until he finished his cigarette. There was something freeing about this moment. No anger, no resentment, just quiet understanding between two people who'd witnessed the same storm from different perspectives. True closure, I realized, wasn't about revenge or even justice. It was about letting go of the weight, about moving forward without needing to look back. My final shift before leaving for college was surprisingly emotional. Coworkers signed a card. Kim brought cupcakes. Even Mr. Peterson stayed late to say goodbye. As I turned in my uniform, he handed me an envelope. "A letter of recommendation," he explained. "Not the standard template. I wrote this one myself. For internships, scholarships, whatever comes next. You've earned it." I thanked him, genuinely touched by the gesture. Before leaving, I checked the time clock one last time, a habit after months of schedule chaos. Amber's name was finally gone from the system, deleted like she'd tried to delete me. Walking out the front door for the last time, I felt lighter. The weight of those difficult months lifted from my shoulders with each step. This had been my battlefield, but it wouldn't define me. In my car, I opened the letter of recommendation. Mr. Peterson had written about my exceptional resilience, my ethical approach to conflict, and my ability to document and communicate effectively under pressure. He concluded that I would be an asset to any organization fortunate enough to hire her. I smiled, tucking the letter carefully into my backpack. Whatever battles lay ahead in college and beyond, I now knew I had the strength to face them. 3 weeks into my first college semester, I was finally settling into my new routine. My dorm room felt cozy, my classes were challenging but interesting, and I'd made a few good friends. For the first time in months, I wasn't constantly looking over my shoulder. One night, while working on a paper in the campus cafe, my phone buzzed with a notification. LinkedIn. Connection request from Amber Hill. My coffee nearly spilled as I stared at the screen in disbelief. With shaking fingers, I opened the message attached to the request. "Hi Caitlyn, hope you're well. I'm applying to manager positions at Food Court Cafe. I noticed they're near your college, wondering if you could leave a quick note of support for my application. No hard feelings. Thanks in advance." My stomach twisted into knots. The sheer audacity was breathtaking. After everything she'd done, the harassment, the sabotage, the lies, she was asking for my help. For a moment, I flashed back to it all. Crying in the freezer, the burn on my hand, Amber's cruel laughter, the isolation, the fear. I remembered the schedule changes, the missing hours, the whispers behind my back. I also remembered my mom's words. "This is your story now. Rewrite it." My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I could destroy her chances with a single message. I could tell Food Court Cafe exactly what kind of manager Amber would be. I could finally get true revenge. I started typing. Absolutely not. Then I paused, backspaced. Instead, I simply clicked ignore. No message, no reply, no acknowledgement. Amber no longer deserved space in my story, not even as someone I needed revenge against. I closed my laptop, gathered my books, and walked back to my dorm through the cool autumn evening. Above me, stars glittered in the clear sky. Ahead of me stretched endless possibilities, a future I was writing for myself, one page at a time. Sometimes the most powerful response isn't a grand gesture of revenge or even a righteous takedown. Sometimes it's simply moving forward, leaving the past where it belongs, behind you.